Well, as the year starts to wind down and New Year's approaches, we start to see all these different lists coming out. Top 10 this, top 10 that. And as I looked around different lists, I found it interesting that the top 10 most watched TV events of the year were all sporting events. Of course, highlighted by the Super Bowl with over 112 million viewers, or in advertising lingo, 224 million eyeballs. And why not? Sports is the original reality TV show. It's pure unscripted drama. Or in some cases, such as the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football, it's really more of a comedy/horror film, however you look at it. But either way, good or bad, Americans just can't stop watching. And advertisers know it. Whatever direction eyeballs are looking, corporate executives are trying to buy up that real estate to grab your attention. And it's a powerful, lucrative place to be, especially if you know how to craft and deliver that message to sell a product. Well, athletes are starting to realize this. In fact, they're starting to use it for their advantage. And for the most part, those of us in the audience love it. We crave it, actually. We all want to know that our favorite gridiron gladiator is a real human just like us. We see that because documentaries and books filled with all kinds of anecdotes and little stories about athletes in their daily lives fly off the shelves. People eat it up. Articles about locker room conversations become a water cooler gossip throughout the work week. In the NFC Championship game last year, Richard Sherman blew up on live TV, yelling and going on this rant about he is the best cornerback in the whole game. Some people loved it, others hated it. But either way, everyone was watching. Throughout sports history, America has always been drawn to colorful athletes with loud voices. Whether it was Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Broadway Joe Namath, Arthur Ashe, or Lynn Swann, or for you kids out there, guys like Charles Barkley, Tim Tebow, Curt Schilling, and of course Richard Sherman. Historically, we've always looked to athletes to speak their mind, whether we agree with them or not. Love, hate, argue, or debate, athletes talking politics or even just spewing their own wacky opinions, it all provides entertainment value. Until recently, when all of a sudden a select group of Americans decided, you know what, they just don't want to hear what athletes have to say, and it's all because they just don't agree. For example, one of the quietest, most soft-spoken athletes today, Derrick Rose. During warm-ups before a recent game, Rose wore this shirt that said, "I can't breathe," of course showing support for Eric Garner, the black man who was choked to death by a police officer in New York. After the game, Rose didn't comment on it at all. In fact, he refused to speak about that. He later talked about it in a practice, but he didn't add any statements. He just wore that shirt, perhaps fearing a fine from the NBA even, and then went on about his business. But his silent statement was deafening, and so was the public outcry afterwards. Immediately, you could hear people saying things like, "Oh, he's just an athlete." Or on social media, people saying things like, "Well, why don't you just focus on playing basketball?" But you'll notice from those same group of people, out of the corner of their mouth, as soon as an athlete gets arrested or faces an allegation, that same crowd of people jumps on them, blasting them for being a terrible influence for our young people. Well, I would ask those people, which is it? Didn't you just minimize them to just an athlete? Are these athletes simply a human body intended to run really fast for you while you sit there on the comfort of your couch? I think it's hard to have it both ways. If you'd like to hold athletes to a higher social standard for what they do, it's hard to also turn around and restrict them from what they can say. Meanwhile, the silent message of Derrick Rose gained lots of traction all over the NBA. LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kobe Bryant, and nearly the entire Phoenix Suns team all shared Derrick Rose with that political statement wearing the "I Cannot Breathe" t-shirt. Then in the NFL, Rams and Browns players both drew the ire of local police departments by protesting the police killings of Michael Brown and Tamir Rice. And there it was again, the same loud reaction from that group of people reacting to these statements. You know, they'll say things like, "These guys should just shut up and stick to sports." You know, if you listen to this group of people long enough, you would almost start to think that athletes weren't just paid their salaries for being world-class performers, but also that maybe they were being paid for their silence. So quickly, viewers lose their interest in the human reality part of sports when maybe things just get a little too real for comfort. It seems that those same group of people who are always shouting about protecting freedom of speech would just as quickly turn around and censor the athletes that they don't agree with. For those people, I have one more question. Would you really prefer to live in a society where people are forced to keep quiet about those beliefs that matter to them the most? Not me. Given the loud and outspoken athlete, I'd like to see that. I don't have to agree with them, but I do want to hear what they have to say. They already have our eyeballs. Why not give them our ears? I want to hear Kurt Schilling talk about creation science or Michael Sam on marriage equality. I want to hear Pete Carroll and Jesse Ventura ramble on about government conspiracy theories. I don't want to silence Meta World Peace, or I don't want just part of Mike Tyson. Give me the rants. Give me the imperfection. Give me the whole athlete. After all, are you not entertained?